from the AP. They've got a better framing of this. So, of course, in the previous segment, we're talking about how, there were 26 confidential human sources on the ground, 3 of whom were paid. And we know that from AOC and many others, there were police officers who were assisting. There's video footage of the shaman being led to the chambers by Capitol Police. Well, after this IG report comes out exposing that there were 26 informants involved, with the majority of them participating in January 6th, here's how the corporate press frames it. Let's start with the AP. Watchdog finds FBI intelligence missteps before J6 riot, but no undercover agents were present. Well, that's a really weird way to frame a story that shocked us all by learning that 26 informants were there. How about this from Axios? There were no undercover FBI employees at the U.S. Capitol or rally at the Ellipse on January 6, 2021, according to a new Watchdog report that further debunked conspiracy theories that law enforcement instigated the deadly riot. Let's try USA Today. No FBI informants were authorized to enter Capitol on January 6, 2021, DOJ report. How come none of the headlines were FBI informants illegally entered restricted grounds and the building participating in the J6 riots? Because the media is lying to you and colludes with these intelligence elements. This is why MSNBC and CNN love to hire retired intel guys.
Yeah.
It's because one big incestuous family tree.
Well, you missed our headline. Our headline did say that at the Post Millennial did say that FBI sources went into the Capitol.
Well, of course. That's why I'm not bringing you up.
Yeah,
and the New York Post
were
did too.
About it, yeah.
People being honest. The lead here is that we've long wanted to know how many informants were involved. And now we have a general. I think it was more than 26, to be honest.
Well, that's just
FBI.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
FBI, and they said also that they didn't have a larger presence because it was a low security thing for them. It was like not high priority. So otherwise they would have had more.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So let's get this straight. 26 paid contractors from the FBI. 3 of them were on duty that day, and 0 of them get arrested for January 6th.
Is it true 0 got arrested?
0.
Even though it's like, I'm just looking at the, I love the DOJ website where you can look at all of the Capitol breach cases. There's 128 pages of names of people who were sentenced. That's just sentenced. Not even arrested.
Wow. It's it's such a travesty of justice, and the idea that this was not at least instigated by the government itself is just ridiculous.
Yeah, but now we are watching, and we know this about the media, but these headlines are brazen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the story was shocking when we learned how many informants were paid. Informants, how many showed up? AP. No undercover agents present. This is the dirty game they play with fact checking that I tell you guys about all the time. So I don't know if you've heard me tell the story, but basically, or the circumstance, basically, Snopes, for instance, what do? Donald Trump will do a backflip, land perfectly on the ground in a perfect pose, and everyone claps. And then the story goes viral. Donald Trump does backflip. And then Snopes write a headline. Did Donald Trump land a perfect, flawless backflip in front of a crowd of supporters who all clapped and cheered on Sunday? False.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll go through this big, long tirade about how Donald Trump did not actually do this. The claims were made on the internet, blah, blah, blah. Then at the very last sentence, it will say, while Donald Trump did perform a flawless backflip in front of his supporters who clapped and cheered on Saturday, he did not do it on Sunday. They'll add that no one asked and then debunk themselves. AP, no agents were present. Okay, tell us about the 26 paid informants who were in the building and never got arrested. Yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating because this is something that we've seen for, the better part of a decade now. The way that, I mean, honestly, Donald Trump is kind of the guy that really made this something that people were aware of. The people that were conservatives had kind of felt like the mainstream media was unfair to them. It became more clear with the FBI or the IRS targeting Lois Lerner and targeting conservatives in like 2013 or whatever it was. But with the election of Barack Obama, you started to see that it wasn't just that the media seemed a little biased, and it was likely because they were from cities, which is generally what your average person was like, well, maybe they're a little biased, but they are from cities, and so they probably have a different perspective than people on the on the right, and that was trying to steelman the arguments, trying to think charitably. But then once you saw the way that the media behaved once Barack Obama became the president, and with the IRS scandal, and then 2016 when it became clear that the Democrats didn't have the forever control over the government, which they genuinely thought. They thought that now, once Barack Obama was elected, they thought that it was obviously going to be Hillary Clinton, and there was going to be essentially the Republicans would be a regional party. The Republicans would stand up someone against the Democrats every time, but the real debate was going to be which Democrat was going to run to beat the Republicans. That was the sense on the from the people on the left. And once they saw that once Donald Trump won, and they saw that that was not the case, they completely flipped out, and they went mask off with the lying, the authoritarianism, the attempts to narrative build and control what people saw and heard. And it's tiring. But we've been seeing it again, 10, 15 years now.
I'll start caring about the January 6th riot when Democrats start caring about the much more deadly and destructive BLM.
May 29. We call it M29.
Yeah, that's a big
M29
day.
insurrection.
When they set fire to the church in Washington.
And firebombed the White House and forced the
firebombed the
president
White House
into an emergency bunker.
Yeah.
And the Secret Service guard station, and they attacked the federal courthouse in Portland for months.
For over 100 straight nights.
It was a national tragedy.
Billions of dollars in insurance damage by estimates.
Maybe we should ask the incoming administration to launch the M29 committee.
I know that everyone's really jazzed about doing stuff like that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But on the other hand, I would love to just be like, you know what, screw all that. We're just going to go make everything awesome. We're not going to dwell on our.
But that means arresting the criminal elements who have been corrupting government.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But I don't what waste of time was the January 6th committee? I don't want to see a January 6th committee. Do you know what I mean?
I disagree completely.
Yeah, we have to.
I disagree completely
I just want all the good
But think about what you're saying. We are a nation, a body politic, and on our left arm, it has become gangrene.
Sure. And
the way I see it is you're saying, well, look, I get that we have an infection on our arm that's rotting away the body, but let's just focus on learning how to juggle with the right hand. It's like, no, triage. We've got to stop the rot.
But isn't it every 4 years? Aren't we going to just see every 4 years the new administration prosecuting the previous administration?
No. I'll tell you why.
Ad nauseum.
Let me tell you why. The reason they did the last 4 years of Biden's persecution of Trump, his top aides like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, his January 6th supporters who were persecuted, parents, Christian. The reason
that stuff.
The reason the Biden regime did this, along with their Democrat allies in New York, Atlanta, other hellholes around the country, is because we let them get away with this the first time. I think we need to give them a healthy dose of their own medicine. I call it the dead chicken strategy. Give them a healthy dose of their own medicine, show them power for their real crimes instead of our side's non-crimes. And so they never do this again.
You don't think there's a way to do that without just wasting a bunch of government time and money?
I mean, the government wastes a bunch of time and money every day.
It's infuriating. I hate it so much. I hate that.
I think that we need, I really do hope that Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, I hope they open a criminal probe under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, conspiracy against rights.
Yes.
Down in the Southern District of Florida, Fort Pierce, Florida.
Who do you want to see them prosecute?
I would like them to investigate, and if appropriate, I'm an attorney. I still have bar duties.
Said.
If appropriate, they should prosecute anyone who politicized and weaponized our intel agencies and law enforcement to go after political enemies for non-crimes.
So that would you think they should investigate Merrick Garland for going after parents at school board meetings?
You're damn right. Let's go through the list. I may have a list of my.
Or what about the people who who determined that Catholics who go to Latin Mass are actually akin to domestic extremists.
Yeah, down in Richmond.
Yeah, investigate whoever came up with that memo.
I would look at, for example, I would look at President Joe Biden's role. Even if he has presidential immunity, he could be an important fact witness. I would look at his White House counsel's office, like Jonathan Sue, who waived President Trump's claim of constitutional executive privilege going back 250 years to George Washington, which led to the Mar-a-Lago raid and the 2 indictments by Jack Smith and his counselor Jay Pratt. I'd go after.
Did you investigate Smith?
And real quick,
Definitely.
when Trump said in that Meet the Press interview, "This man came to my home,"
Yep.
oh, I hope he does not forget, and he brings about accountability and justice.
Well, the good thing is that President Trump is not going to have to worry about any of this, because if his Justice Department does its job, they're going to obviously open a criminal probe on under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, just like Jack Smith did. That was one of his charges.
An investigation of Robert Hur, for not releasing that transcript, the unredacted transcript?
Nobody's above the law. There is a long list of people, and I would say Fannie Willis, Nathan Wade, Tish James,
Benny Thompson.
Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson too.
I do know I screw that up every time.
Benny, no!
Sorry, Benny. No, Benny Thompson.
I would, hey, look, nobody's above the law. And when a grand jury.
Yeah, Benny, you're not above the law.
Sorry.
That's right. And when a federal grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida brings an indictment, obviously they're legitimate. A grand jury brought them. And if they're innocent, then, the
What about
I agree.
Mayorkas? Do you want to see a prosecution of Mayorkas?
for his illegal mass parole of 15 million illegal immigrants into our country, and the resulting migrant crime, the rapes, murders, robberies.
I've got, just a handful of people I'd like to see investigated too, like Gretchen Whitmer and
what would you investigate Whitmer for?
the deaths of the elderly during COVID.
Would you throw Cuomo in there, Andrew Cuomo?
Absolutely, and Wolf and Newsom and who am I forgetting?
There was a memo that came out from the CDC.
New Jersey.
Yeah, that governor, the governor.
His name.
He's just. Well, we can still go after.
They all did the same thing. They put COVID patients in nursing homes. Murphy, and we saw the reports. I believe, right there, I would say probable cause to open an investigation. Present a preponderance of evidence to a grand jury and say, should we indict on the evidence we have? And if they say yes, then we'll build our case. According to the reports that came out, and some of it may be political, I don't know, Cuomo killed 15,000 elderly people by choosing to put sick people in nursing homes instead of using, what was it, the Comfort that was brought to New York that Trump
the USS Comfort. The ship.
Yeah, he could have used the ship.
There was a memo that came out from the CDC in the spring of 2020 that instructed nursing homes to, once people went to the hospital to be treated, when they were done being treated, the nursing homes were instructed by the CDC to take them back. So that was the order that all of those governors were following. It was directly from the CDC.
Those governors wanted to save their Medicaid money.
I agree with you that it was wrong, but there was a memo.
I think.
I don't care.
Do you think that they lost much sleep?
And they can be investigated, and we can look at their communications, because for all we know, there's an email from Cuomo to a health official in New York who says, I understand there's a memo, but this could result in mass death of the elderly if we do this. And Cuomo might have said, yeah, it's fine, do it. They said to do it.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's like,
Latipo in Florida didn't do it. He didn't authorize stuff like that.
Yep, he did a good job. So, I think there should be a lot of investigations and charges. I do not see how if we do not get a handle on the corruption, then when Trump gets out, the apocalypse starts all over again.
100%.
And it's going to be worse than anything we have seen, because you're going to and look, we may have won this battle in the culture war. I've been saying this for some time now. The podcast presidency, they called it. Shows like this have played a role in communicating a vision and a message and ideas and factual information to regular people that allowed them to make an informed decision. But if we're going to sit here and just laugh at Rachel Maddow having a ratings spiral, 6 months to a year, Comcast, Disney, Fox isn't as bad. I'll give them a little bit more credit. I would say they're net positive, but they're not perfect. But these big corporations, they're going to dump billions into the space and make sure we are drowned out. They're going to make sure they dominate the front pages. They're going to cut deals with the corporate class at YouTube and other big tech platforms. They're going to lobby for certain censorship policies. They're going to lobby for things like speech liability insurance. And they're going to come out and be like, well, you know, we have our errors and omissions insurance too. YouTube should require, you know, oh yeah. And then they're going to basically lobby for things that make it for small independent creators. It's going to make it impossible. Then when 2028 comes around, there will not be the authentic independent podcaster anymore. Then they come back in, and if these criminal elements are allowed to persist with Pam Bondi, Cash, and Trump just sitting by and letting it happen, they're going to come back and say, now we have to excise the populist movement. It's our last chance. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.